How many of you know your birth date? Of course you know your birth date. But how do you know which day it is? Can you remember back that far? Of course you can't remember that event. But at least one of your parents was there, and probably a doctor and nurses, and one of them recorded the date for you. They were eyewitnesses to the event of your birth. They saw it happen, didn't they? So they know when you were born, and hopefully you can trust them to tell you the truth about that day. What about other events that have happened in the past? For example, the Civil War. How do you know the Civil War actually happened? Where did the information in television shows and history books come from? Sometimes, however, the original accounts have been changed over time, or the person who witnessed the event wanted to tell the story in a particular way to make themselves look better, or the witness saw only part of the event. What about events that happened even further back in history? Events that happened thousands of years ago? What we need is an eyewitness who always tells the truth, who can never lie, and who has been around at least since the beginning. Can you think of anyone like that? Let's review. What do we call the collection of 66 books in which God has recorded what he wants us to know? The Bible, right? The Bible. In a way, this makes the Bible the history book of the universe. Everything in it is true, and it gives us an account of history from the beginning to the end. Last time, I showed you this picture about all of human history, past, present, and future. Today, we're going to talk about creation and God's original intent with what he created. You might wonder why this is important in a class about understanding who God is and what Christianity is, but understanding what God's original design is crucial to understanding where we find ourselves now and what our future may hold. Some people say we're not to believe that the first couple chapters of Genesis record actual history. They say it's just a story and not the truth. However, God knows what he did, and we can trust him to tell us the truth. As we journey through this week of God's creation activity, we'll see that God is wise, powerful, and very organized. There is no evidence of chaotic explosion or evolution. God created the environment needed to sustain and maintain life, and then he filled it. He was very organized. Let's read the first verses of the creation story. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And the earth was a formless and desolate emptiness, and darkness was over the surface of the deep. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the surface of the waters. Then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. God saw that the light was good, and God separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, one day. Remember in our first lesson when we talked about how the Bible begins with the existence of God? It tells us he was there because God is eternal. He was there in the beginning. Remember how we also talked last time about how what God says becomes reality? What God says becomes reality, so he cannot lie. Since God never lies, we can trust his word, the Bible, to tell us the truth concerning the events God tells us about. Well, we find the first proof of that in the Bible here. Let's look closer at what God created on that first day. What did God create on the first day? Light, earth, day, and night cycle. God created light and a day and night cycle, but does this set of verses mention anything about the sun? No, God created only light on this day, not the sun. He created the sun 3 days later. Today, the sun gives us light during the day and the moon gives us light during the night. So in the beginning, how could there be day and night without the sun? Actually, we figured out that all it takes to have a day and a night is a rotating earth that's spinning and light coming from one direction, right? The Bible tells us clearly that God created light on the first day as well as the earth. You can see the Bible tells us what God did on day one of creation here in red. He created the light, the earth, and the day and night cycle. So what was the source of light on day one? Well, the Bible gives us evidence to determine a reasonable and intelligent answer. Let's read these verses together and see what they say about the source of light and what it could be. 1 John 1:5. This is the message which we have heard from him and declare to you, that God is light, and in him is no darkness at all. John 8:12. Then Jesus spoke to them again, saying, I am the light of the world. He who follows me shall not walk in darkness, but have the light of life. Colossians 1:15 and 16. He is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn over all creation. For by him all things were created that are in heaven and that are on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or principalities or powers. All things were created through him and for him. Revelation 21:23. The city had no need of the sun or of the moon to shine in it, for the glory of God illuminated it. The Lamb is its light. If Jesus was the creator, like Colossians 1:15 and 16 says, and he is the light of the world, then what was the source of light before the sun was created? Jesus was the light. According to Revelation 21:23, what will be the future source of light after this present heaven and earth are destroyed and a new heaven and earth are created? It says the Lamb is its light. We'll see in a few lessons that Lamb is referring to Jesus, the Lamb of God. Okay, back to day 1. We see God is creating the earth. He is creating light and darkness, and therefore he is creating time, the construct within which all living things must exist on earth. God is organized. He begins with earth, light, dark, time.